All right, so we're going to go over, let me make sure I got my laser pointer here. We're going to go over some other types of demand elasticities. One of them is cross-price elasticity of demand. The other one is income elasticity of demand. We'll talk a little bit about that. I don't really care if you know the formula for this. It's basically the same as any kind of price elasticity of demand, but this one the difference is that they're looking at the quantity of A demanded divided by the percent change in price of B, the other product that you're comparing to. So it measures how sensitive the quantity demanded of good A or product A is to the price of good B. So if something has, if there's a lot of, if something has a pretty close substitute, that can change the demand for the other thing, the other good, based off of its price. Here's an example. For substitutes, cross-price elasticity of demand is positive. All right, that means an increase in the price of one brand of cookies will increase the demand for the other brand of cookies. So if you were buying this one brand of cookie here, that was your normal brand, then all of a sudden it changed to be more expensive. You might consider moving over to the brand that's similar. In this case, these cookies over here. These both look like butter cookies, which are not my favorite cookies. If we were talking about Oreos, here we go. That'd be a different case. So for complements, cross-price elasticity of demand is negative. That means this: an increase in the price of milk causes a decrease in the demand for Oreos. So this is a complementary product of Oreos. It's not a substitute for Oreos, obviously. For example, one brand of cookie is a substitute for the other brand of cookie, right? Or vice versa, I'm sorry. But milk is a complement to Oreos. So if there's an increase in the price of milk, it may cause a decrease in the demand for Oreos. Because face it, I mean, come on, who doesn't like Oreos with their milk, or milk with their Oreos, whichever you prefer. So we'll skip these here. The next portion is income elasticity of demand. So income, it measures how sensitive the quantity demanded of a good is to the changes in income, right? Income's talking about the person or the firm or the household income of the family you're talking about, etc. And this is the formula, which I'm not really, I don't really care if you know that. For just principles of economics, this is not something you really get into. The only idea that I really want you to get through here is just the different things that affect price and demand on products and goods. This is just a cool way to kind of understand how it works in the marketplace, how things change in the marketplace based off of price. That's all elasticity does, is it takes a look at the demand and supply of certain things based on the changes in price of those certain things. And that's very important for you, because you have to understand, if I change the price of coming to my church, remember, price isn't always cash. It could be, what do I require of my members? If the price is too high for my members, it's often a big chance that they'll go to a place that's less, that requires less. That's why you see the different denominations. Some grow faster than others because there's a less of a price that they have to pay in order to be a member of different churches. And that is an elasticity. That's a demand elasticity. So we're looking at, why do people demand Elevation Church here in Charlotte over the specific church that I go to, a New Life Church, which is Pentecostal, and they may have certain standards, or may have a higher price to be part of that member, a higher sacrifice that needs to be made that's required of its members. And so, whereas if they were going to a different church, they may not need that kind of price, right? And that's what we're looking at. And that actually ties in very specifically to what you're going to do as a minister of a church. What do I require of my people? And then I cannot be surprised that the demand for my church and its audience is smaller, is less than the demand for other churches, if that makes sense. So the income elasticity of demand can be used to distinguish normal from inferior goods. And this is a pretty cool thing, because a normal good basically is something that is required, is a necessity, and there's an inferior good which isn't normally a necessity, and we'll look at what that means. So, for example, here is the inferior good. Normal goods can be income elastic or not. For income elastic goods, income elasticity is greater than 1. So if it's an income elastic good, the income elasticity is greater than 1, and that's if we are doing the formula, of course, the percent change in quantity demanded and the change in income. For income inelastic goods, income elasticity is positive but less than 1. So vacations are income elastic, which means that depending on people's income will give you the demand for going on vacations, and it's highly elastic, because if I earn less this year, it's highly unlikely that I'm going on vacation this year. We'll skip that thing. Usually sellers offer more than when prices are higher, but how strong is that relationship? So here's price elasticity of supply. Measuring the price elasticity of supply is similar to price elasticity of demand. It's exactly the same formula, but we're doing it for supply rather than demand. Okay, so I don't know why my mouse is freaking out. There we go. All right, so here's a perfectly inelastic supply curve, as you can see here. This is price of cell phone frequency, and so if the price of the good goes up by $1,000, so an increase in price, it leaves the quantity supplied unchanged. We still have to provide, the company still has to provide the cell phone services for its cell phone, its reception for its cell phone, so or the frequencies for its cell phones. No matter what the price is, that's the thing that it has to pay. Okay, so there's an infinite, basically an infinite supply depending on the price, right? They will supply at any price point. Now, perfectly elastic supply, price elasticity supply, is what you see here, just like the perfectly elastic demand. But instead of anything under, this says that anything over, there's an infinite. They'll infinitely supply whatever as much as they want over the price of $12, but not under. Here we go. That's what they state here. At any price above $12, quantity supplied is infinite. Of course, if I'm a supplier, I know I'll supply as much as I can, or any quantity at $12. Whatever. If you're going to pay me $12, I'll produce 0 to infinity. If you're going to give me more, that's definitely the case. I will continue to produce as much as you want for pizza. But any price below that, I just can't do it. I won't do it. All right, elasticity of supply captures the sensitivity of quantity supplied to changes in price, right? So we have the inelastic supply curve. When there's a change here of price, there wasn't a big change in quantity, or as big of a proportion to that. So we have $10 change here, but only a 5 quantity mark change there. Now here's a very elastic supply. If we were to go up $10, we have a huge, a 90. I don't know if it's in millions. We'll just say 90 increase in quantity, right? So it causes a big increase in quantity supplied if the supply is elastic. So the same thing applies here as you learned for. It's the exact same thing as you learned for demand. It's inelastic if the seller change quantity just a little. It's elastic if it's changed a lot based on price. Now here are the big factors I want you to know. What factors determine the price of elasticity of supply? Well, the availability of inputs. Inputs are the things that you use to create that. What did I need to create an Oreo? Well, I need cocoa, and I need batter, whatever it is that they make the cookie out of, and I need cream, whatever it is they make the filling out of. Those are my inputs. And if any of those inputs are not very available, or not their supply is limited, it will increase my price. So if increased production is very expensive, then the supply curve will be inelastic, which means that if I have to change it, right? If production can be increased cheaply, then the supply curve will be elastic. If I can increase my reduction based off of the price changes, I will definitely do that. And so my curve will be elastic. There, the supply curve, not the demand, what people demand, but what I would supply. All right, I'll supply more at cheap inputs. I'll supply less at higher inputs, right? For example, they give us the example of ivory increasing collection costs in elastic supply. It's harder and harder to do that. One, because the availability of ivory is limited, and two, because there are laws against it. Time. Price elasticity of supply increases as producers have more time to respond to price changes. Long-run price elasticity of supply is usually higher than short-run price elasticity of supply. And all that means is if you have more time to respond to a price change, you're going to be able to absorb some costs or understand that in the future it's going to go lower, and so I might change my costs now in order to produce whatever it is later. So given time, it will change the supply curve, the elasticity of it in general. And I believe that's it for price elasticity. Awesome. You don't have to do any of these, learn by doing discussions or any of that. I just hope you learn something a little bit about elasticity, and I hope it helps you with the test that will be here in week 4, which is this week. All right, God bless you guys. I love you. And if you need anything, please feel free to call, text, FaceTime, email me, whatever it is. I'm super easy. I'm not here to see you fail. I want you to succeed, and I want you to win for Jesus Christ. So this is going to be awesome. All right, see you guys next time.